So welcome to this weekend, class. So this is weekend with experts. In this week, we'll be teaching you guys how to use this dynamic range in MS Excel. That is a complete usage of dynamic Excel. That is dynamic range in Excel. Right. So there are few topics which we have recorded here. So all these topics, along with that, there will be some more topics which I'll be discussing. So if you go and check this, we have something called a static and dynamic range. Then we'll see how we can use this dynamic range in user form or say dependent drop downs. Then we can see how we can use this dynamic range in pivot tables, or how to use dynamic range in formulas, or say in drop downs or in data validations. And also we'll see how we can use this dynamic range for changing the flags by selections. Right. First we'll understand what is the range. So many of them actually think that range means just select something like this, that will become range. So first of all, let's understand what is this range, and then we'll see what is static range, and then we'll see how to create dynamic range, and then we'll start working on examples. I have a list of subcategories here. If I select this, this is a range. But how this can actually be used? Say for example, I'll create one data validation list. Click on this data, and here I have this data validation. Select this, and here I have a list, and I'll select this. This is the range. What you see here is I6 to I11 is the range. Now if I say OK, here I can see the selections here like this. Or also what I can do, let's say I'll create one more data validation here. But this time I'll not select this. I will select this range and say I'll name it as RNG subcat. Now select one of the cells. I'll go to this list, and here I'll say data validation. Here I'll say list, and I'll say equals RNG subcat. I'm just giving this name. I'll say OK. If you go here, I'm getting this list. That means I created one range by going to this formulas, and here name range. Here you can say this. You have this subcategory which got created. Delete this. This I created as a static range. Static range means this will not change. I selected this range. I just typed one range name in this address bar, and that become a range, that is static range. I can check that. I'll go here, say name, and here it will be recorded or it will be saved here, and you can see this I6 to I11 is the fixed range. Now suppose if I add some more data here, let's say I have some data here. I'll just copy this, and if I paste it here, this range will not be added here. You can see this, see, it is still the range which I've selected here. How to make this dynamic, that I'll tell you in the next example. Let's assume I have one table here with 10 regions, and I have one table here as well wherein I have this data for different regions. Now what I'll do is I'll go here, I'll create one data validation like what we did previously, data, and I'll take this data validation. This time I will select the range like this. This is static what I did. Now I'll say OK. I'll get the selection here like this. But what if the data gets increased here? Some more regions get added, and there are some more data which get added here. So that also should get updated here. So for that, what I'll do, I'll create a dynamic range. A dynamic range is nothing but the range will get updated automatically as and when the data is getting added or deleted. So first, to create this dynamic range, we can use different formulas. One is offset, then we have something called as indirect, or we can also use index and we can create. So today I'll teach you how to create this dynamic range by using offset function. Let's go here. Here I have 10 regions, but this can change. So what we'll do is we'll take the count of the number of regions available. So you can go and select anywhere in your sheet, say equals count A. Let me select this first cell and I'll select the range till bottom. Till wherever you want, you can select. I will get the count. Next, what we'll do, we'll go to this formulas. Here I have this name manager. Let me select this. I'll say new range. Do not create in the address bar because now we are actually creating a dynamic range, not a static range. I'll give a name for this. I'll say RNG region. You have to give one name here. I've given this RNG because it will be easy for me to recognize whether it's a range or a shape or whatever. So any objects or any names, if you're creating like this, we'll be using this prefix. So that is the good practice. So I've used this RNG region and let the scope be workbook. Reference, I'll say equals. As I told you, we'll be using offset for creating the dynamic range. I'll say offset. So in offset, there are 5 parameters which we should keep in mind. The first parameter is the reference. Select here. So once I select this reference, that means from here the range starts. That means the range, whatever is there, so that will be the first cell, comma. The next parameters will be row index and column index. In this case, I've selected the first cell, so the row index will be 0, comma, the column index will be 0. Next 2 parameters will be row height and column width. The row height, what I'll do, I'll go here, I will select this one. Because I've taken a count there, the count will be keep increasing or decreasing depending on whether I'm adding the data or deleting the data. Comma, now I should select how many columns I'm selecting here. In this case, I'm selecting only one column, that is I need only one column here. I'll say 1. Close the bracket. I'll say OK. Now the range, whatever we are creating, that is dynamic range has been created. I'll say close. Now let's go here in this dropdown what we have created by using this data validation. I'll say data validation. Here instead of the static range, I'll say RNG region. Just give the name which we have selected. Say OK. Let me select here. See, I have this region 1, region 2, or it goes on like this. Now let me add some more regions. So I've kept some data here. Let me take another 10 region and I'll paste it below. Now once I paste it below here, the count changes. So once the count changes, if I go here, even the range also changes here dynamically. If I remove this, let me just remove. If I go and check this range, so this should be dynamic. See, it is still 10 only. Let's say Control Z. So I got this. If I add some more, the list will keep getting added here. Fine. But let's say I will create one range here such a way that here I'll be trying to get the data. Say for example, if I select region 1 here, I should get the data for all these years from this table. So what I'll do, I'll go here, I'll say, let me just remove this as of now. And then I will create one formula. So VLOOKUP. I'll select this cell. I'll fix this, I'll make it absolute. Then I'll select the range. Now I'll fix this, that is I'll make it absolute. comma, it will ask for the column index number. I'll say 2 comma 0, that is the second column. I'll say enter. So I got the result for is 2014. Now what I can also do is, instead of saying 2 3 4 5, I can mention the serial number here, or I can take match also. Just go here, instead of this 2 I will select this, say F4 F4. I will fix the row number. Now I'll copy this formula and I'll paste it here. Say paste formulas. Now you can see this. I have this region 1, region 2. If I'm changing this, these values are also getting changed because I've used this VLOOKUP formula. Let's say region 10 I'm getting. Now again I will add 10 more records. Now you just observe, in this range I'm getting the added regions here. When I'm selecting one of these regions, the table is getting updated, but let's go and select something here. See, I'm getting error here. The reason is, if I double click here, if you can see this, the range what I've selected here is up to this range only. That is, the table array is selected up to this range. But you can see there are some additional data which got added. Now if you want to correct this, I have to go here and change this range. If you say this is static range. So in this case, I have to create dynamic range. So always when you feel that there is a fixed rows or say columns, then I can use this table array as static. So what you see here, this is static. But when I'm adding the data, so what is happening is, it is taking up to the range what I've selected, but the rest data what is there, that is not getting selected. So we are getting errors. So how to rectify this? Again, we can create the dynamic range. So what I'll do, let's create one more dynamic range now. One dynamic range what we created is for this drop down. Now we'll do one thing. So we'll create one more dynamic range for the table what is there here. So now you've taken this count, that is from here we have taken. For the records we have the count. We'll take the count for columns as well. Say we can mention it for rows, and I'll mention here for columns, say equals count A. Let me select this. I'll take some buffer if in case there are some more columns which will get added. I'll say enter. So there are 7 columns total. Now what we'll do, we'll go to this formulas. Again we'll create one more dynamic range. So how will we create? I'll say new. I'll name it as RNG region table. Say equals offset, open bracket. Same thing. Now first I'll take one reference here, comma, I'll say 0 comma 0, that is row index and the column index. Then I'll take the count of rows, comma, then count of columns. Let's close the bracket. I'll say okay. Now there is one more table which got created, that is one more dynamic range got created. I'll say close. Now what I'll do, I'll go here. This range what you have taken, the static one, I will replace with what we created now. Say RNG, you can select your range table and I'll say enter. Now you can see this. Let me copy this towards my right hand side. Now I got the result. Let me go and select here till 20. I'm getting the result. Let's go here. I have some more data here. Let me take this up to this 25. Now when I paste it, now this range should get changed. We can see this up to 25 is coming. And if I select after this 20, also here I should get the updates. That is, I should not get the error. So let's go and check. Let's say 24. We can see that the data is changing here. If you go here and check, see region 24, I'm getting the data here. So this way I can use dynamic range. This is for the list or say data validation what I've created. Next is we'll see how we can use the same thing in my drop down. That is, we'll go to this developer. So in this case I don't have developer. I'll just quickly add this developer, options, custom ripple, and I'll select this developer, say OK. Go to this developer, say insert, and here I'll take this drop down and I'll put it here. Now in this case also I need to give the range. So when I'm using this, when I'm selecting this range, either I can give a static range, that is right click, format control. Here I have this input range and I can select this. But now since I've already created a range name, so I can directly give the dynamic range which you have given. Say the range name will be RNG region. Say OK. See, automatically I'll get the dynamic range what we have here. Now when I change any of these values, this chart also should get updated. So this chart is actually referring this table. Now what we'll do, say right click, format control, I'll say cell link, I'll select somewhere here which will give me the index number of the selected region. See, fine. Now what we'll do is we'll replace this one. Instead of validation, I'll take the value which is selected from the drop down. So one example we saw how to use this dynamic range inside this data validation. Now we'll see how we can use this drop down. Now let me remove this data validation from this. I'll say clear, say OK. I'll not have that drop down. So now whatever I change here, that should get updated here. Now what I'll do, I'll say delete. Now we'll see how we can use this index number to get the value here. Say equals, I'll say index. I can use index function. Now in this index function also, it'll ask for array. Now what I'll do, in this index, I will select this RNG region itself. Because already I've created one range here for this, say comma, it'll ask for row number. I will select this index number which I'm getting from the drop down. I'll say close bracket, I'll say enter. See now if I select this, it will automatically change. See, so if I remove any data, suppose if I remove this here, I should get till 20 only. See, I deleted 90, 20 also I deleted, so it is coming till 90. So till 19 it is coming. So if I change this here also, it will get updated. So this is how you can use dynamic range, so that this will become very dynamic and you don't have to keep doing any manual things. Apart from this, you can also use the list box. Go here. So I have the list box here. Let me just put it here. Here also I can use this dynamic range. Say right click, format control. See here I have this input range. I'll say RNG region, and the cell link I can give the same cell link, so that again I don't have to create this formula. So our intention is to show you how this dynamic range can be used in different controls. Say OK. See, let me click on this. See, this way also I can use. Now let me copy this and paste some more data here which I deleted. So from 20 I'll just copy, and if I paste here, all the selections, say right from the list box to drop down and this index formula and this table, everything should get updated. See, I'll go here, this is up to 25, and if you see this is also up to 25, and here also I'm getting the results. So whenever you are actually using some templates, or say when you're creating something like this, make sure that you will use dynamic range. Right. Next one. Just now we saw this. We look up formula how to use this dynamic range. So I just taken one more example of we look up and I'll show you. I have an employee ID. Let's say go here, just paste one employee ID here. I want the name, region, and earnings. Say equals VLOOKUP of this value. Let me fix this, comma, and I'll take the table array from this. Or let me take with heading. I'll fix this, make it absolute, say F4. Now I need the name, say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is the second column. I'll say 2, 0. If you want, you can use match also. Let me just copy this towards my right hand side. I want the region which is in third column. I'll say 3, and here earnings which is in fifth column. I'll say 5. So I got this. Let me go and change this. If you want, you can create one more data validation there. I'll say 7. I'm getting the result. Let me change this to 10. Yes, still I'm getting the result. Fine. Now what if I'll add some more data here? Let's say I'll go here. Let me add another 10 records. Right. Now if I go here and say 15, I'll get error. Because here the range is up to this one, up to E010. But if you want to have till here, again I have to go here and change the path, or say the range like this, which will get increased. But every time I cannot keep doing this. Again, in this case, like what we did in this table, same way I can create a range here as well. So what we'll do, we'll create a dynamic range from here, so that we can use the same thing for index formula also. Suppose if I'm taking heading here, so index will start from here. So if you are using the same table either for index and say lookup, then I can start the range from this cell. Same thing, I'll go here, say equals count A, and I will select this range. Fine, I got 20 records here. Now let me go here, formulas, name manager, and I'll say new. Here we'll say RNG, we'll say EMP table. Give a unique name, so don't give similar names. Here I'll say equals offset and open bracket. The first what I'll do, I'll go here, I'll select this first reference, comma, and then it lasts for the index, that is row index is 0, comma 0. It's a good practice that you just select the first cell of the table array, so that always the index number will be 0 for both row and column. Say comma, a row height, I'll take this, assuming that the number of columns will be fixed. So here I have 5 columns. If you want, you can make it dynamic, or you can make it 5. In this case, I'll just say the number of columns will not change. I'll make it as 5, and I'll close the bracket. Now let me copy this, its name, I'll say okay, say close. Let me just go here. So I'll remove this static range what I had, and I will paste this range we created just now, that is RNG EMP table. Say enter. Now let me drag it. I'll make this 3 and this one as 5 quickly. Okay. Now let me change this to 20. Yes, I'm getting the result. Let me go here. I have some more data. Let me copy this from 21 to 30. I'll paste it. So now if I enter, say E030 also I should get. Let's say I'll go here and check whether it will come. Say E030, enter. See, I don't have to change the range here. Still I'm getting the values. Same thing can be done in my index function as well, or any other formulas where you think that there is a range which has to be specified. Let's go here. I want the values here, that is for E010 or something. Now here I'll be using index function. Say equals index of, it lasts for the array here. So instead of selecting this array like this, I can specify the range already I've created. Say RNG EMP table, comma. It lasts for the row number. So the row number has to be dynamic here. Let's make it dynamic. Before that, what I'll do, I'll just hard code it. What you do is whenever you're writing a formula, just hard code it and check whether I'm getting the result and then make it dynamic. In this case, in VLOOKUP, first I selected the hard-coded range and then I converted that into dynamic range. So that is how we should actually practice. That is how we'll become expert. It's not that directly you can go and keep entering everything. Directly, if you think that I can make it dynamic, then it will be a little difficult for you to understand. Now this E010, I don't know the index number. It can be anywhere. So in this case, since it is a serial number, I can directly say 10. But what if it was sorted? As of now, I'll just hard code it. I'll say 10 and say comma. The column number is 2 here. I'll say 2 and I'll close. I'm getting the result. Let me just go here. Since it is saying 10, now if I go and change this, see, I'll just change the employee ID number to 20. See, this is not getting changed. The reason is, though I have given the dynamic range here for this table, this 10 what I've given is static. So for that, what I'll do, go here, I'll use match, and then I can select the lookup value, that is this one, comma. Can I say this lookup array? Again, this is also an array. Here I have to create one more dynamic range, or I'll just select this as is and I'll show you what will be the problem. I'll say F4, comma 0, enter. So if you say this, I got the index number. Let me go here. I will just remove this 10 and I'll select this. I'll say F4, say enter. Now if I change this, say 30, I'm getting the result here. Let me copy this. Now this one I'll change to 3, and this one I'll change this to 5. See here. Now if I go and change this to 20, it will automatically change. Here also, if I change this, I'll get the same result. I made it dynamic. But now let's add some more data. Say from 31 to 40. I'll just copy this and let me paste it here. Fine. Let's go up. Now if I go here in VLOOKUP, which we have used, I'll say 40. I'm getting the result. Let's go and see whether we'll get the result here. I'll say 40, say enter. I'm not getting the result. The reason is, here this is dynamic, but the range what you have given here, this one for match, is not dynamic. That means you have to create a dynamic range for this as well. So if you think that you want to make it dynamic, always you have to think about dynamic range. So I'm just telling you the possibilities. That is where all we have to use this dynamic range, how all challenges will be facing. Now let me go here quickly. I'll create one more range. Say name manager, say new. I'll say RNG EMP. We'll make it as index. Say equals offset. I'll select the first reference. See, everywhere I'll just select the first reference. Means in that range what I'm creating, I'm just selecting that first reference, comma. Row index is 0, comma, column index is 0. and already I've taken this count. Select this. This is the row height, comma. Now I need only one column. I'll say 1. Close bracket. You can copy this range name, say OK, say close. Let's select this. Now you can see this, the static range. I will replace with the dynamic range. I'll say enter. Can you see that? Automatically this got changed. That means even if you increase some more, so I don't have to bother, because the match whatever is there, it is using the dynamic range here, and the index here is using the dynamic, the array here, that is the table, and here also in VLOOKUP I'm using this dynamic. So this is how we should start developing these skills. This is how the dynamic range will be useful in making the templates, or say the formulas or anything, dynamic. Fine. Let's go to one more example, that is in pivot table. While creating pivot table also, this dynamic range will play a very important role. Let's go here. I have a data. I can see the data here. Let's see how many records are there. There are some records here. So what I'll do, I'll just try to remove some data here. Let's take out this east. Okay. I'll just remove this, cut this, and I'll paste. Just will paste it somewhere here for time being. And now we'll create a pivot table using the table what I have here. We'll make it static. I'll say insert a pivot table. Here it is asking for the range. If you can see here, it's a static one, say A1 to E2593. I'll select this existing sheet and then go here. I'll create a pivot table here somewhere. I'll just click on this and say OK. So I got the pivot table here. I'll take this region and then I'll take this sales. Close. You can see here, I can see north, south, and west. I don't have east. Let's go to this analyze and we'll see the data source. It is saying A1 to E2593. Cancel. Let me go to this data and I will update this data. That is, we have this. I'll put it here. That means the range got increased. Let's go to this pivot table. Let's try to refresh and see. I'm not getting that east. One way is I can go here. I'll say change data source and then I can increase this range. But instead what I'll do, instead of doing like that, let's go here, go to this data. I'll create one dynamic range here. Let me take the count first, or you can use this count in the offset itself. Say equals count A. I'll take the entire range like this. So it is giving me the count, that is 3457 records are there. This is the row height. Let me just select this because I need, for pivot table, make sure that you're taking the heading as well. Okay, for VLOOKUP I just ignored the heading, so it is not required, but in pivot table you need to have the heading as well. I'll select this first cell, go to this formula, say name manager, new, and I'll say RNG, we'll say pivot table. Now I'll go here, say equals offset, and then we'll select the first reference cell, comma, say 0, 0, comma, then row height, select this row height, comma, now I'll take this number of columns, say 1 2 3 4 5. I'm making this as hard code. Suppose if you think that you make it dynamic, so you can take a count and you can refer here, that is also possible if you think that the columns are also getting increased. Now in this case, I assume that columns will not increase, the records are getting increased, so I just took count for this records and not for the columns. I'll say okay, and if you want we can we'll take the name. I'll just copy this, say okay, close. Let's go back to our pivot table. Now what I'll do is go to this analyze, say here I have this change data source, and instead of this range what we have, I'll say control V and I'll say right. Can you see this? I got this east immediately. Let's go and add some more data. I'll just add some dummy data here. Let me just go here. I'll just copy this somewhere here. Copy this just to see whether it is getting updated. I'll paste this. We'll make it as northeast. So if we go and check the count, see this increased. Previously it was 3,457 or something. Now it got increased. Now let's go back to my pivot table and right click, say refresh. See, it is there. I didn't go here and change the data source here because I had mentioned the dynamic range here. I can also use by creating this a table here, this one, that the data whatever is there, I can convert this into table and then I can create. That is another way, that is another method. I'm just telling you, by using this dynamic range also I can make the pivot tables very dynamic. Fine. Next, data validation. So data validation just we saw in the first example as well here. Same thing, I'll just show you some more examples here. I have a subcategory here. I want to create a list. Let's say I'll copy this list and I'll put it here. Now let me select this list here, go to this data, and then I will select this data validation. I'll make a list. Select this. This is a static range. I'll say okay. Here you can see the list. Let me add some more things here and let's see whether I'll get the data here. No, I'll not get. So what should I do? So what I'll do is I'll go here, I'll create a dynamic range here. Let's say we'll add it later. So here I'll say equals count A from here till bottom. I'll just select. Make sure that you'll not have any data in the bottom here in this range what I've selected. Otherwise you might get wrong results, or say the dynamic range will not work properly. Fine. Now what should I do? I'll go to this formulas, name manager, say new. I'll give a name, say RNG, call it as subcategory. I think already we had created one subcat, equals offset of the first cell, that is reference, comma 0, comma 0, comma I've taken the count here. If you think that you want to take a count, you can take the count here also. Say count here and you can select the range. The better way is you take it here only in the sheet itself, so that it will be easy for you to debug, or if you want to change some formula you can do it. Select this, comma I'll say 1 and close the bracket. Say okay. If you want you can copy this range name so that it will be easy, just copy and paste instead of typing. Say close. Now let me select this, go to this data and say data validation. Here instead of this range I'll paste it. Say okay. See, I got this. Let me copy this and I'll paste it here. Let's go and check. See, I'll add some more. That should get updated. See, till phones. Yes. The mistake what people will do is, instead of creating this dynamic range, let's say, let me delete from here till here. If I go and check, see, I'm getting exactly till wherever the range is available. Some people, what they do is, they'll go to this data validation and they'll select the list. Here, while selecting, they'll take the buffer like this, so that when I add here, it will automatically come. Fine. See here, I have the data here, which I can select. But if you go and see this, see, there are so many blanks here. They think that, I can paste some data. Suppose if you go here, I'll paste some list here. And if it select here, so automatically this will get updated. But never do this. Why? Because see, if someone is selecting this blank, there are chances that you might get error in the formulas, or say sometimes if you're referring some code or say macros, then you will get some errors, or you might get wrong results as well. So it is not dynamic. So always try to create one dynamic range, then make sure that you will have exactly the number of records, or say number of items what we have, that will get displayed here, or it can be selected only till wherever the data is there. Right, this is for data validation. So here also I can use dynamic range. Next one, dependent dropdown. This is commonly asked question by many of them, or say commonly used in many of the templates option, that is commonly used option. I have a category here. So already I had created one category. Sorry, here I'll just create one category. So here, assuming that it will not change, I'll not go and create one more dynamic range here. I'll just take a static only here, assuming that this will not change. Just selected here. So here I have this furniture, or say office supplies, or technology, whatever. What I need is this subcategory. When I go here, when I select this furniture, here I should get only these furniture subcategories. If I go and select this office supplies, I should get only office supplies. If I select, say for example, if I go here and if I select this, say data validation, and say list, and I select this furniture, say okay, I'll select this furniture. If I go here, see, I'll get only this. So if I go here and check this one, only this. Or some people, what they do, they'll make a list like this. Let's say, let me make it here only. They'll copy this, and they'll paste it here, copy this, and they'll paste it here. They will go and select the entire list, data validation, and then select this entire list like this, and say okay. Now what will happen is, here they'll select furniture and they'll go and search, okay, this is for this. Then office supplies, then they'll go here and select like this. What if you select this one? See, these two are not matching, because this bookcases will not fall under office supplies. This will come under furniture. So this should be dynamic. That means if I go and select furniture, in this list I should get only furniture, say subcategories. If I select office supplies, only office supplies subcategories should be there. So how to do this? It is very simple actually. I'll show you. So you don't have to think too much about it. So what we'll do is, first we'll create one range for this. If you want, you can create a dynamic range for everything. So what I'll do is, I'll just select this, and here I'll copy this, and I'll name it as furniture like this. Say enter. This is static actually. So if you want, you can make it dynamic, but here we'll make it dynamic. Let me copy this one, select this range, and paste it here. I'll say enter. I am just renaming all these ranges here like this. See, I named this one as furniture, this one as office supplies, and this one as technology. Let me remove this. Now what we'll do in this case, go to this data validation, and here instead of this range I'll say equals and say indirect. Indirect is a function which will refer indirectly with the range what I've selected. See, I'll select this furniture and make it relative, don't keep it absolute. That means in B6 whatever name is there, that is nothing but the range name of these categories. Now I'll say okay. Now let's go and see the furniture. You can see this only bookcases till tables. Office supplies, see, I have only office supplies. Let me go and change this to technology. Now I should get only technology, that is these four subcategories. Let's see whether it is working. See, let me go here and change this. See, office supplies. See, so you go and change here also. So wherever you go, this will become dynamic. So like this, you have to use the ranges. Not always you think about the static range. Now the question comes, where all I can use this dynamic range. So wherever you feel that there is a range to be selected or range to be used or say implemented, then I can use this dynamic range. So in the next session, I'll talk about the user forms. That is how we can use these dynamic range in user forms. Then in dependent dropdowns like what we did here, same thing I can do it in my user form dropdowns as well. Then I'll also show you how we can use the dynamic range in programs. Also, I'll talk about how we can use these maps. Say I have these flags. So if I change selection, then the flag has to change. And also I'll tell you how we can use this dynamic range in creating the charts as well. And I have some more examples which we'll discuss in next session. So this is all for today's Weekend with Expert session. Meet you in the next session.